What I like about Bitcoin, we first start off with the negative of what I do not like about Bitcoin. Before even that, let me just add that this is not financial advice. I am not suggesting any type of financial directive. These are concepts. What I dislike and then like about Bitcoin. What I dislike about Bitcoin is there is the aspect of Bitcoin that has to do with speculation and curiosity. A lot of people right now are seeing Bitcoin jump up, and they've heard about it over the last few years, and they've seen it be at the highest point that it's ever been at, and therefore they throw in some money hoping to ride that curve upward and to the right. So, which is understandable, but that's a bit speculative, meaning you can't, if you look at the history of Bitcoin, you see that it moves up and down. But there is a trend of it moving upward and to the right. And I remember when Bitcoin was new, back in, well, new to me, I remember first being aware of it in 2013. It's been around, I think, since 2009. And had I put in $500 back then, I would have, let's just say, quite a bit more now. But anyway, so I don't like that. But I think that's just kind of part of the nature of the game, just like any market, that there is going to be the curiosity, the novelty, something new, and you're going to have a lot of people jumping in unwisely in order to try to get rich quick, or try to get their money in something that they think is going to solve problems for them. Anyway, so that's the other aspect that I don't like of it is with a positive comes a negative. And a positive I'll talk in a second is the blockchain technology works so that every transaction is, if you kind of imagine it like this, captured in a ledger. And so when one Bitcoin is transferred from one person to another person, there is not a new creation of Bitcoin. It goes away from one person and it is now in the possession of another person or entity. So that will have a positive aspect to it, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the negative side of that is that it's missing a key aspect of true money, decentralized money, which is that of a fancy term called fungibility. Fungibility is actually a pretty simple concept, and it's there mostly with cash, in the sense that a $5 bill, any denomination really, dollar bill that you hold. Remember, our parents told us when we were kids not to, the money can be kind of dirty, literally, the cash that we hold in our hands, because you don't know where it's been. It's been through the hands of many people, it's been touched, and it could have also been dirty in the sense of the transactions for which it was used. It may have been used to buy other things that may be unethical or illegal. But when you hold that dollar bill, you didn't do anything wrong necessarily. The money has just come to you, maybe from change or just something you bought at a garage sale or McDonald's or whatever. So Bitcoin lacks that because of the blockchain technology that keeps track of all of those things. And so because of that, it could be used at some point to say, okay, they track all these ways in which a particular amount of Bitcoin was used, and therefore the assets could be frozen if they were used in a way that is deemed illegitimate by banks, by governments, other entities. Not that somebody would necessarily be doing this, but they could have received it, and 5 transactions back, it was used for something, against the law. So Bitcoin kind of lacks that like perfect fungibility, which even cash doesn't have that to some extent. Some cash does get confiscated because it was used in certain activities, illegal, unethical, both, or just deemed illegitimate by some type of entity or a government. Anyway, so Bitcoin has those negatives, but let me talk about what I like about Bitcoin. Number one, and I think this is the most important part of any sound money, and sound money system contributes to political freedom as well, is the fact that Bitcoin is inflation proof. There's only a certain amount of it. I believe it's 21 billion that will ever exist. And so therefore, it can serve, like gold or something else, possibly as a store of value. Because when there's a certain amount of it, one of the key attributes of money is scarcity. There has to be a limited supply of it, at least within an economy or a certain area. So lots of things can serve as money as long as there are some 5 attributes, characteristics that something has to have in order, at the same time, in order for it to be used as money. Scarcity, recognizability, divisibility, meaning to be able to divide up. It has to be portable, carry it around with you, that type of thing. And so there is a built-in scarcity to Bitcoin, which is part of its value. So therefore, one of the problems with the American dollar is if you look up the CPI inflation calculator, which you can just Google it, I've done videos on this as well. Inflation from $100 in 1913 to today, in 2021, the current time, inflation has gone up about 2,500%. In other words, what you could have bought with $100 in 1913 would now take about $2,600 to buy today. And so, subtracting out that 100, inflation has gone up over 2,500%. Now, what is inflation? Some people just think it's rising prices, but inflation is actually what's done to the money. And so inflation is the artificial increase of the money supply without the requisite increase of goods and services in the economy. Basically, whether digitally or literally, it's the printing of more money that is not represented by value in the economy. So it's a form of legalized counterfeiting that if an individual or a bank without government sanction does, is a crime. Fraud, counterfeit, theft, and rightfully so. However, banks have often been given special government privileges to take an action that otherwise would be considered theft and print in order to pay for government programs. It's happened throughout 19teens and 20s. And then the government itself, the creation of the Federal Reserve, can create, not only through just literal printing anymore, but digital printing, can create money out of thin air, which is a hidden tax that transfers the value of the money from the money that people hold, especially in savings, to government and politically connected elites. So what I like about Bitcoin is that it's inflation proof. You can't make more than a certain amount of it. And that's why I believe right now it has such a high dollar amount. Because, number two, I think Bitcoin can be a store of value because of that fact. Bitcoin may not become either crypto cryptocurrency, it may not become the norm that everybody uses it, like that you go pay for a haircut with it or something like that. But it may become similar to gold in that whatever the dollar amounts change and whatever amounts of money governments or banks print, there's only a limited amount of it, similar to gold. So it could be a store of value however much the market fluctuates. And I know people are suspicious of Bitcoin. I think there's a healthy suspicion of those things, especially when they're new. However, how we trade today is, in a way, very close to, if not already, digital currency. You buy something online, when you use a debit card or credit card online, you're already working kind of within that digital currency system, even if you're not using cryptocurrency. And so Bitcoin can act like a store of value, and it's inflation proof. And then number 3, I think this is the last one I can think of so far, Bitcoin is decentralized. There's nobody, and I know that's a kind of dime a dozen word that everybody says around this, but decentralization means that there's no particular entity, like a Bitcoin company, that is in charge of the system. There's no government, although governments and big companies are recognizing Bitcoin and starting to put in some of their resources for Bitcoin and other up-and-coming cryptocurrencies. And so Bitcoin has the benefit of it where it's run kind of by the miners who originally got the Bitcoin out of this, this kind of complex computer scenario, right? Which I'm not going to get into, and I don't know if I totally understand myself, which it's, by the way, it's too late for Bitcoin mining, so a lot of people think they can get into that. But anyway, it's not run by someone with a megaphone giving orders. There's no particular board or person. It's a decentralized platform that's accessible just based on a couple ways of getting to Bitcoin, whether through an app or a wallet or a thumb drive that has a encrypted code on it, or some sort of storage kind of place for it in a secure server. So you're not physically, I think that the purchase of something like this that is limited and decentralized allows people to step out of official money systems like the US dollar that, for example, has the weaknesses of centralization, of printing, a central bank that can print, that by that it is subject to inflation. And then the value is really controlled by centralized US government, rather than there being a separation between government and currency. And that would form kind of more of a natural market basis rather than making something money by government fiat. So there's some things, and Bitcoin's still pretty new. It's over 10 years old now, but not that many people have it yet. It's only 70% of the world has the internet. I believe that's ridiculous. I just heard that number somewhere, but even less have cryptocurrency. There will continue to be updates and developments in these areas, but there's some reason to be positive about where these things are headed. Again, this is not financial advice, just thinking through some aspects of Bitcoin that seem to be positive trends of what I like, what I dislike, etc.